You put your hands together for them, and then we will sit down together so they can introduce themselves. And if you have questions, remember to save it somewhere, either on your phone or the sticky notes maybe you have with you. So I don't need a paper to introduce you guys. Let's start with Dr. Joe. So put your hands together for Dr. Joe. Dr. Jules. Dr. Jules. We have Dr. Abel. Put your hands together for him. We have Vice President Mole Kola. Put your hands together for him. I think you guys, some of you may know him. And we have President, Pastor, Leader, Head of Standing for Christ Ministry, Pastor Jean-Marie. And of course you have me, all right? What's my name? I'm not coming back. That's not right. What is it? All right, so that's Junior. So thank you guys, and put your hands together for everyone as we are about to sit down and go over the questions. You can do better than that, right? All right, so. I guess, yeah, this small guy in the middle. All right, so I'm gonna give you guys a chance to, let's start this way, going that way. Dr. Abel, you introduce yourself. Briefly, tell them who you are and your full name.
Well, thank you, Junior. My name is Pastor Abel and Pierre. This is my last name. I am a pastor, an assistant pastor, and also I am a teacher. I teach languages, I teach sociology, because that's what I learned. And I serve as a president of a ministry, and I do apologetics. I am involved in different type of ministries in Haiti, and I'm also married. I have 2 children. I think that's pretty much it.
That's good. Thank you, Dr. Abel.
All right, up next, hi everyone. My name is Leslie Jules. I'm an economist, and I'm also an apologist. And as an apologist, I have a certification program where you guys can learn apologetics, especially if you can speak French. How many of you speak French here? Okay, some of you. Yeah, so I have a free certification program on apologetics, and if you are interested, I also have a YouTube channel, actually 3 YouTube channels, and one of them is specifically in English for people like yourself, so that you can learn how to build your faith more. And yes, I'm married and I have a son. That's me.
So I guess I'm next, right? So again, my name is Julian Junior Ambrose. Like most of you guys, I'm originally from Haiti. I live in Delaware. I'm a youth leader. I teach in school, and I love teaching in church too, so it's a passion. So that's pretty much it. I'm your brother in Christ. Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. My name is Mole Kolas. I'm the Vice President of Standing for Christ International. You know, I have a background in sociology, the same as Mr. Abel. And I used to teach back home, like sociology and anthropology, but I still teach at the school, a theological school, where we teach methodology. And currently I am studying applied behavior analysis. I'm glad to be here with you. All right.
All right. Well, the least for last. It's good to be here. My name is Jean-Marie. I'm the president of Standing for Christ International. I have my background in management, education, theology, and Christian apologetics. I'm an author. I'm a husband. I've been married for almost 21 years with Nadej. And yeah, I love what we are doing, and I'm so glad to announce, based on what Junior, the question Junior asked you, starting this year, we're going to have an apologetics unit in this church. So this will continue on. You want to give God a round of applause for that? So, yes. So I'm so glad to announce it. We will have it, and you will have this open forum where you can ask questions about your faith. You can bring your objections, and you will have trained people to address them for you.
Yeah, thank you, Pas. Now, we're going to dive into the questions and discussion technically, but one thing that comes to my mind is that most people may be sitting here and ask themselves, what is apologetics? So what is apologetics? So with that question, that will open, the conversation or discussion we're going to have about the theme, which is human suffering, a philosophical, theological, and historical perspective. Before we even go into that, it would be very important for us to, one of you guys to give us a brief, down-to-earth definition of apologetics. Anyone?
I think I would defer to Jean because he just wrote a book on apologetics, right?
Yeah. Exactly. He just wrote a book about who is an apologist. It's available online, not in English yet. I started it in French. So, qu'est-ce qu'un apologète chrétien? It's available online. I highly recommend it. Where, from my definition, I withdrew 6 truth propositions for an efficient apologist. It's going to be available in English like in about a month or two. No worries, and you will be aware. So apologetics, most of the time people would confuse it with having an apology, like, oh, I apologize. It's not apologize. It comes from a Greek word, apo and logia, okay? So it's a speech about a defense. It's a speech to bring a defense. So apologetics exists in different fields, but we do Christian apologetics. What do we do? Christian apologetics. So our defense, our speech to defend is to defend the Christian faith. So I would say simply that's when you actually come up with rational reasons to present the faith in a way that even people who are not in the faith can understand it. So in apologetics, we do use the Bible, but we don't have to use the Bible. We can use a lot of ways of knowing things like philosophy. We use, science, the same way we can use theology to, come up with a case and make it, understandable. So we use reason a lot. That's why it's a combination of, philosophy, science, and then theology. That's the way I would break it down for you.
So briefly, it's defending your faith with reason.
Correct.
So, and you guys can take that definition with you when someone asks you, what is Christian apologetics? So it's simply you defending your faith with reason, not just emotion, not just because your parents said something, but with reason. Which is very important because we have to use the mind. The Bible says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all, which leads to this. One of the ways to love God with all your mind is to do apologetics.
Absolutely.
Does that make sense? So it's not just, okay, some people may be thinking, especially for you guys as young people, I'm making this comment to say that it is not something for the intellectual. It is for every Christian. So we are calling to this. With that being said, go ahead.
One thing that I would like to add to what my brother already said so beautifully is that apologetics is connected to evangelism. It's not about, showing how much you know, but it's really about winning soul. That's the business of apologetics. And this is the mission of every Christian because we are called the Great Commission. And in order for us to be effective at what we are called to do, we do apologetics. And it's all about evangelism.
Thank you.
And from a biblical standpoint, I'll give you one verse to memorize. Next year, or you'll do the test, Pastor Jean-Marie, 1 Peter 3:15. I would like for all of you to write it down, memorize it. If you want one verse when you're talking about apologetics, you need that reference. This is it. And learn it by heart. 1 Peter 3, verse 15.
I want to make it simple for them because it's on the agenda. I know not every one of you has one. It reads 1 Peter 3:15, and then we add 16 because together it makes, it crystallizes what the apostle is saying. Say, but honor the Messiah as Lord in your hearts. Always be ready to give a defense. This is the word apologia I just mentioned. To anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. However, do this with gentleness and respect, helping your conscience clear, your conscience clear, so that when you are accused, those who denounce your Christian life will be put to shame. That's the verses he mentioned.
That's good. Thank you so much, guys. Now, real quick, let me do a check. So, does everyone understand what is apologetics? So, everybody, if you were on the street or if I come up to you and ask you, you would be able to tell me. Now, with that perspective, how do we, with reason, biblical reason and other reason, philosophical and scientific reason, how do we deal with the subject of suffering, human suffering? Because we all deal with that. And which leads to the discussion we just had. So we're going to just flow into that and go with that. I know everybody answered that question in the group, but now I'm going to give the panelists maybe 30 seconds to actually give your answer to that. Freedom without suffering. Suffering with freedom and freedom without suffering. So suffering with freedom or freedom without suffering. So let's start that way and go this way. Or so let's start with that. You got 30 seconds to what is your position, whether it's biblical, philosophical, or even experiential, actually.
That's a very good question. And I was so pleased to see that in my group and all the different groups, you didn't just give pat answers. You think it through. There's something about this question. You don't want to just give answers you don't think about. And personally, the way I see it is that we know that God is love, right? The Bible teaches, and we know from experience, we know God is love. And there's no way you can experience love without freedom. That would be my take. That would be my first answer to the question. In order for me to experience freedom, to love and to be loved, I need to be free. There's no love without freedom. And that's the main reason why God created a world with freedom, because God didn't want to have constrain the beings, the creatures, to love him. Because what is a love that is imposed on you? There's no such concept of love imposed. So basically the line is freedom serves the purpose of love. There's no love without freedom. So that's why I would go with the freedom and the suffering.
That was good. Now, Dr. Joe.
Yeah, I think if you will allow me, I would like to rephrase the question. Because for some people, looking at all the suffering, all the evil in this world, and using it as an argument against the very existence of God, and they would say, is it the best that he could do? It's really challenging. It's a very important question. Is it the best that God could do? Because when you have a being that's all-powerful and a being that is also loving, is it the best that he could do? So the answer could be no, yes. He could have done a better job. But who are we to tell God that he could have done a better job? So who are we? I think this is the best world that God could orchestrate. And God has built this world in such a way, as my friend Abel was saying, so that we could love him. And in order for us to love him, we need to be free. This is the best world that God could ever create because he has a purpose in mind. And our job is to discover that very purpose, because suffering is inevitable. And that's what I'm going to be talking about on Sunday night. This is not something that you can avoid. It's going to happen. And if it doesn't happen already. But we need to understand what is God's purpose in orchestrating such a world. Because of course he could have done better, but that's what he has chosen in his wisdom. And we have to discover why. And that's why we're here, and I'm so glad to, to be here with you guys. And yeah, so looking forward to how my friends since yesterday, started to develop that topic, which is very complex. Because we're dealing with human conditions. We're dealing with something that you guys will be experiencing for the rest of your life.
Or are experiencing.
And it's not just you, because you are believers. It's non-believers as well. We all called to suffer. And what's God's purpose into it? We may not know fully what he has in mind, but I would like to share with you some perspective. So looking forward to interacting with you tomorrow night.
Yeah, that was really good. I have a bunch of questions. I'm sitting here in your spot, so I'm going to be asking them questions I think you would be asking. So save your question. We'll get to them. I have a few questions based on what you just said, but we'll get back to it briefly. Mole.
Yeah, but I think, thank you for your insights, guys. When I was here, I said, but everything that we're saying now, we're saying from the perspective of our own experience. We're in a world where we are experiencing sufferings, right? Am I right? I mean, the choice we made, I was thinking even to say that, I choose freedom and suffering is because we are living in a world where we are experiencing suffering, and we get to choose. And we get to choose who I'm going to marry to, the way I want to dress this morning. It's like what you're saying it doesn't come from a vacuum. It's coming from experience that you're already in. Am I right? We don't know yet about the other world. We don't know. Probably if we had to experience the other world, possible world, probably would be better for me to make the choice. Do you understand what I'm saying? We said, okay, I love the world, where I have to choose. It's because we are already in a world where we have to choose. But I don't know. But I think also the Bible promises that we will live in a world without suffering. And we'll get to have free will also, right? Definitely. Yeah. But the third possibility is right there, and this is the promise of God. But to be frank with you, it's hard. For somebody who's let's say somebody just lost his mother, or somebody just kills his family. While that person is in that situation and you ask that person that question, I don't think, while mourning, I say, I would rather they kill my father, and so I can have to choose. It's kind of, it's conceptual. But I think from a Christian perspective, the third possibility is right there. God said. Paul said, if you are suffering right now, it's for a cause, but we will be in a world where we will be with Jesus without suffering. But, it's what I wanted to say. It's simple to say, I chose that. But, when you take it through, it's very hard.
Thank you. That was good.
Yeah. Well, I think yesterday I mentioned that during the first day. By the way, we miss one of our panelists because of all the situations that his flight got canceled. It's Dr. Guito Nicola. He would be here sharing his insights on on what we are discussing this morning. So we greet him deeply in the Lord. I said yesterday, one of the common denominator for human beings, it's not death. We can experience death indirectly, but death is not the common denominator. The common denominator is suffering and pain. There is no one who was born on this earth who has not or will not be experiencing suffering. Some of us may not die. Jesus comes, we will transform. So death is not the most common denominator. The most common denominator is suffering and pain. That will piggyback on what my colleagues, my fellow panelists have said. The reason why the best world that God could have created is a world where we have free agents and we still have sufferings. It's because it's win-win. Now let me ask this. What's the most beautiful thing that could ever exist? I just ask you. What's the most beautiful thing you can imagine that exists? I think if I say it, you would agree with me. And they said it too. The most beautiful thing that exists is love. You agree with that? Yeah. Love is the most beautiful thing. So without freedom, we would not have love in the world either. So that's number one. It's a win-win. It's win-win. And number two is we live in a world where we have suffering, but we're free. This is the word I would choose. But it's a world in which God has overcome evil as well in the world. So God overcame evil already. God overcame suffering already. And Mole said it, there will be a time when we will experience life without suffering and pain. So honestly, rather than being robots, I have no idea. The world wouldn't be meaningful if we didn't have free agents, if we didn't have free will. So therefore, the best one is this one, knowing that not only did God overcome evil, but I can learn from it. It can build my character, as some of you said, and contemplating a day when there will be no more suffering and pain. This is the best world.
And that was really good. So can you guys put your hands together for that? Which is really, really beautifully said. Now, there are many questions this question just answered. So for example, how can a good God allow so much suffering in the world? Again, the answer is love. So because God is love, He must create those that reflect His love. And in order to reflect His love, you have to be able to love Him back. So it's kind of, which is really beautiful. Now, as you guys are sharing this, one of the things that keep coming as I'm listening to you is that there is a sense of hope for the Christian suffering. So it's as if there is an underlining truth that goes, the Christian suffering is not meaningless. So,
I would add something. What God proposes, He proposes for the world. I mean, for everybody who's suffering, there is a way to make it meaningful is by accepting Jesus Christ as your Savior. This is now when we accept the message of the gospel, now it becomes meaningful for us. And what I meant to say, it's like what God proposes or proposed is not only for a particular group of people, it's for everybody. Whoever chose His plan, okay, your suffering is going to be meaningful in a way that one day you will be in Him forever. Yeah, I wanted to underline that.
Which is really great. And now this is the next question, and this is very important to me, and especially for all the young people. Suffering is inevitable. We all agree on that. Now the question I'm asking, like myself and them, as a young person, we all suffer. Maybe for you it might be a heartbreak, a relationship that didn't go your way, or you don't get to go to your dream college, or whatever it may be, or you don't have that beautiful thing that you want so much and it creates some kind of like felt expectation, you feel left out, all this peer pressure, you feel like you don't fit in, all this, it's not just suffering in the sense that someone has cancer, it's not just that, but it's just like, because one of the things that I want to say briefly before I ask this question, you can never undermine someone's suffering. His suffering is not your suffering. For you, it might be a small thing, but for me or for you, it might be a big deal. Like your kid might be crying for candy, and you're like, that's not suffering. But for that kid at that moment, this is their suffering. So now, it's inevitable. The question for one of you guys briefly to answer this, because we're trying to package a lot in a short amount of time. Since suffering is inevitable, how can we suffer well? So it's kind of like, you know, it's a little, it might sound simple. How can I not waste my suffering? Because we're gonna suffer, but how can I suffer and get something out of it and not waste my suffering? Because we're all gonna go through it. So either one of you, feel free to take that question.
It's gonna be short. I have a short answer to this. Suffering is inevitable. Now, how can we suffer well? Well, the best way to suffer is to suffer with hope. I think that, to me, it's the key word. And hope, in a biblical and in a theological sense, means certainty. So you know it's not there forever. And that's the beauty of this life. The beauty of this life is like, while we are suffering, sometimes through the suffering, we feel some peace while we are suffering, or we know it's not going to last forever. At least we'll get into another, like the next one, but at least this one ends. So when you suffer with hope, you suffer well. Now, and when I say hope, I'm not talking about like something that you imagine that looks like hope. I'm talking about true hope. True hope is grounded in God himself. True hope is grounded in a relationship with God. How could you understand the first episode, the episode to the Philippians that Paul wrote? This is the episode in which we have the word joy is most cited. And guess where Paul was when he was writing this episode? He was in prison. So it's called a prison episode. He was in jail. He was in prison. He wrote an episode. What he was writing about is for us to be joyful. And he connects the joy that we need to have with a person. Let's guess who that person is. Jesus Christ. That's why, like over 20 times you would find joy, over 20 times. I think Jesus Christ is cited, like is mentioned. I don't remember the exact number. So there is a connection. So to suffer with hope is to suffer with Christ in your heart that gives you pure joy, to the knowing that suffering is not going to last forever. Not only did God overcome it, but there is a time when you will experience life without suffering. I think hope is the key word.
Yeah, that's really good. I want to piggyback back on this, because I think, you know, hope, when you have that in place, your next word would be meaning. They go hand in hand, because if you suffer and your suffering doesn't have any meaning to you, you are losing two times. You're losing in the sense that the suffering you're going through, and you cannot project yourself with this suffering, and this is hope. Let me be very concrete. How many of you play a sport, basketball, soccer, or football, or you want to? How many of you? Let me see your hands. Okay. So if you do practice a sport, you know that if you want to be good at that sport or whatever it is, you need to practice, you need to work hard. This is your suffering. You suffer well because there's a meaning attached to the suffering. You know that, okay, it might be hard today, but I know where I want to go. I have a purpose. There's a meaning behind this. So to suffer well, and I really love this question, Brother Junior, because there's a way you can, not because you're going to become cynical. No one loves suffering. But a few things, a lot of things to achieve in life, you need to go through suffering. There's no shortcut. There's no way around it. So the best way to suffer well is to attach meaning to your suffering. You have hope, you have meaning. And we experience that in our daily life, right? Again, I used to go to the gym, do like, how do you call that? When you do what Molly does.
Bicep.
Yeah, tricep, bicep, that things like this. You do the lifting, thank you. There's that saying, no pain,
No gain.
no gain. So if you don't go through it, you will not experience the joy that come after. Again, that word come. So you have three words already: hope, meaning, joy. You going somewhere. This is how you suffer well. Attach a meaning to your suffering. Now, if you suffer, there's no meaning attached to it, you're wasting a suffering. And my advice is not to never ever lose a suffering. Attach meaning to it. If I wake up every morning at 5 and to go to school, I know I need to go somewhere. I know where I'm going. It's hard today, but I do it for a reason. So there's a meaning behind it.
That was really beautiful. I love this. Don't waste your suffering. You're gonna have to go through it. And I used to listen to a lot of motivational speakers, and then there's this guy who said that you are in pain, get something from it. You're already in pain, get something out of it. You can avoid it. So, which is really, now this is my next question, and then we're gonna try to be brief. We'll take maybe 10 more minutes, and then we'll take your question. We're gonna try to be out by 12:30. Although it's interesting, you can stay and hang out and ask us questions, but we're gonna try to make it short. My next question is this. Hope is the way we suffer well, and with hope comes joy. Now, my problem and the problem of my generation is this. We live in an instant gratification generation. So I need something now. I need it right now. How can we as young people have a sense of hope that keep us grounded in a world where everybody wants instant gratification? Like, I want it now. Like, I can't see what you guys talking about is like Jesus is coming, or the new heaven and the new earth. But this is so distant. I can't see this now. But now, how can we be grounded in that hope? How can we make it instant? Although it's not instant, but how can we make it instant? And anyone can answer that, maybe Dr. Joe. How can we create a picture of the Christian life that give us that hope that is not instant gratification, but it's like an instant joy, an instant hope that is not yet, but here?
Yeah, I think both questions are connected. And if I were to ask you, when did God see Jesus suffering, what would you answer? I mean, think about it. God is outside of time. He's not in time. He's in time in respect to the creation, but he's outside of time. For God, he dwells in what you would call an eternal present. Now, with that in mind, when did God see Jesus suffering?
It's a question for you guys. Yes, go ahead. Can you say it louder? When he was at the cross. Anyone else want to give it a try? You can.
I think, yes, go ahead.
I would say he would have already known his suffering because he created him for a purpose. He already knew through that plan of complete that mission.
Amen.
Since eternity.
God saw Jesus suffering even before the very foundation of this world. That's why the Bible said the Lamb of God that was slain before the foundation of the world. God saw Jesus suffering. But yet, what did he do? He created the world. And the Bible says, because of the joy that was to come, Jesus suffered. He suffered the cross. Because of what? Because of the joy to come. And that's why it is so important for us to understand the heart of God. Because God, and that's what I'm going to be talking about tomorrow night, God, he was the first one to suffer. And that's why I like to say we suffer because he suffered first. And when God was suffering, he was suffering with hope. He was suffering because what he has in mind is to bring many sons to glory. God wanted to enlarge his family. That's why he has decided to create. God did not create because he needed something, but he just wanted to share his love. But he saw the suffering that would result. He saw his own suffering. That's why whenever we talk about God, we talk about the long suffering of God. But he suffered with the joy, with the glory to come. And I think this is how we cope with suffering as Christians. And I understand the need for instant gratification. We all have that, not just young people. We all have that. There are things that we wanted here and we want it now. That's how we operate. But in God's economy, the cross comes first. The cross, then the glory. But now we're living in a world where people are teaching us that glory comes first. That's why whenever we come to church, people are telling you, say glory, glory. It's all about glory. But in God's perspective, it's not about glory, it's about the cross. And then the joy will follow. And I think when we are operating with that in mind, we can, even in the midst of our suffering, we can have meaning. Because we know the best is yet to come. And that's what God had in mind. And that's why the patriarchs, that's why they suffered. That's why the prophets suffered. That's why the apostles suffered. And the Bible says that they did not receive the things that were promised. Because God had something greater for them in mind, so that they would not get there before us. So I think once we try to understand that narrative behind suffering, we can have meaning, and we can also understand how to, how to stop, how to quench our instant gratification.
That was really great. Can you guys put your hand together for that? Now, we're going to take your question, but there's something that you just mentioned, and literally that's something that I've been meditating, preaching, and living on the cross. And it's interesting, the question was, how can we ground ourselves or create a picture that allows to have that hope present in a sense? Now, I have a quick question for you guys. If you could tell me, throughout history, what was the symbol, or what is the symbol of the Christian faith? Anybody? What is the symbol? When you see it, you see the Christian faith. There we go. That's literally, it's not, and it's interesting that they took the cross from the Roman Empire to something that was shameful and transformed it into something that's beautiful. So you see, so it's as if God is shifting our mindset to look at what is supposed to make you feel ashamed, what is supposed to break you, is meant to build you. And that's the cross. It's kind of like, and I love this. Almost every morning I try to take some time to thank God for the cross. Because right there, that's where pain and joy meets. That's where hope and hopelessness meet, in the sense that hope swallow hopelessness. Life swallow death. Right there, and it's interesting. And I would advise, I keep on doing that, advising young people to go back and read classic Christian books, and you will find the cross all over. Like, you read ancient people, you read, I'm not talking about the present, gospel of prosperity or you go back, I'm not going to name any name, maybe I could. You read John Wesley, Charles Spurgeon, you read Tozer, you even go back to previous churches, so you see they talking about the cross, because no cross, no crown.
Yes, sir.
the Bible said no pain, no gain, but we're going to say no cross, no crown. So with that being said, I think we're going to close and take your question. It's the way that we as leaders and Christians really preach the gospel. That's what will give people that living hope. Why would someone accept for them to lynch them or split them in half, throw them in, boiling oil, crucify them? Why would they do that? They had a picture in mind, and they kept the cross before them. And it's so important for this generation to understand this. We need to preach this more often, where everybody understands this. The way to glory is through the cross. So, and this is really exciting to me.
If you allow me to comment on this, it's not without reason. That's basically why the message we are called to proclaim is the message of the cross.
I preach Christ and Christ crucified.
This is what it is. That's what Paul preached, Christ alone and Christ crucified. This is it. I like the graphic answer that Dr. Jules gave about the cross. And the question about instant gratification for this generation, this microwave generation, it ties back to Dr. Abel answer, meaning. Because meaning and I conflate the two, meaning and hope. Because when you suffer with hope, it gives meaning to your suffering. So the instant gratification is, okay, I want it to end. But when you know why you're going through this, you are encouraged to finish it. So, yes, that instant gratification thing, once we attach meaning, which, comes from hope, I'm telling you, say, you know what, if it can, last long, it could even be better. Some people don't want to, they love the experience, I can give you a quick example before we move on to, you could call it suffering. In 2015, the first time of my life, I was admitted to the hospital. Doctor said that I was diagnosed with myocarditis, something wrong with my heart, but I'm in great shape, okay? I'm in great shape, no worries. And then I experienced something. I fainted. Well, fainted, my wife was panicked, and and while I was fainted, the white side of my eyes, took over, that's what my wife could see, the dark part disappeared completely. And then at the same time, my wife was panicked, but myself, I was experiencing bliss to the point where when I came back, I had a headache, and I regret it until now. So it's like, I want to have that same experience. I was in the hospital, but the experience for 45 seconds, when I experience bliss, I cannot comprehend what happened. I can't explain. I don't have words to explain it. I felt so good through that suffering that I want to experience it once again. Thank you.
Falling in love with the cross. But can you put your hands together for that? That was really, again, I feel like we could go on and on, especially with that theme of suffering. And this just came to my mind. Whenever you're suffering, look up to the cross. You are suffering with the one who suffered for you first. So it's kind of like you're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. Matter of fact, Jesus said, whoever wants to follow me, let him deny himself, take up his cross and follow me. And he said in the next verse, for whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for my sake. So the way you save your life is by accepting to go through the suffering. So now we're going to go into the questions real quick. And we have people online and we have people here. So we're just going to float between the two real quick. If you have a question, our brother going to help us to... you can stand up and give us your name and ask the question. Or if you have paper as well, we can always read them. But we're gonna try to be brief because how many of you are enjoying this? I'm asking. So are you enjoying this? Okay. All right. So yes.
Her name is Layla. She has 3 questions, but she's shy. She does not want to speak, and she wrote them down. Since we have many people, I'm going to ask one of her questions, and if no one else is asking questions, we can get to her second and third questions. So Layla, I'm going to ask the third question you wrote, one of your three. She said that what will happen to the world if we have chose freedom over suffering? What will happen to the world if we then chose freedom over suffering? This is a question from Layla.
Okay. One panelist, just 30 seconds, briefly answer the question. Anyone in 30 seconds? So I think slightly, let me make this comment. Rather it would choose, because you have, in order to have suffering, you need freedom. Freedom is what makes suffering necessary.
Yeah.
So in a sense, I mean, I can just answer this real quick. So freedom makes suffering necessary. So it would be choose no suffering without freedom. So what would happen to the world if we had a world where we are free? We have no suffering, but we are not free. Then we wouldn't be able to love. That's the simplest answer to it. There will be no love, and without love, life is meaningless.
Let me rephrase it. That's really good, Brother Junior. And for the person that asked this question, just imagine, I'll make you rich, like money like you will ever be able to count, like super rich, with one condition: you will never be able to love or to be loved. But you have it all. You have money, riches, you cannot love someone, and you cannot be loved by someone. Would you choose that world? Would you accept to have money, everything? But you know that anytime a person approaches you, if the person tells you, okay, you know what, I love you so much, you know this is false. Because you cannot be loved and you cannot love. Would you love, would you choose this world? So this is basically what is at stake here when we talk about love.
Yeah, that was really good.
This is a philosophical question. But it's like asking, what would happen to a triangle if it had 4 sides?
No longer be a triangle.
So you can't have your cake and eat it too.
That was really good. I like this answer. Let's, real quick, we'll go to the next one after.
What I meant to say, don't forget, while we're suffering now, there was a world that will, the future world, the God's promised world will have no suffering. This is very important. It's like, it's for now. It's not like suffering like we have to deal in eternity. I don't think we will deal with it in eternity. Yeah.
There we go. Good job. Thank you. Thank you. Put your hands together for that. Next question. I would like to see some of the young people stand up and ask questions.
Oh, my name's Larisha. My question is, okay, so everyone here knows that when you suffer, there is a reason that you are suffering. So when do you know why you were made to suffer?
One of you.
We will never know why. It's interesting, as we're reading the book of Job, we're reading it after the fact. But Job, in the midst of his suffering, he had no idea what was going on. And I'm assuming it's the same for us. We have no idea what's happening in this world, what God is doing, but he's doing something great. And we just need to be part of it. And it's funny because when God revealed himself to Job, he didn't tell him why he had to suffer. You know what God told him? Have you seen that bird? Have you looked at the stars? Where were you? So do you know where the rain's coming from? Do you know these things? If you do, tell me. Educate me. Because even, the book of Job, according to some theologian, it could be the very first book that was ever written, even before the 5 books of Moses. So it's interesting that this is the first book, and we're seeing suffering so present in that book. And suffering of a man who's God, God's testimony about Job is that he's blameless. He fears God and shunned evil. But yet that very man suffered so cruelly. But yet God did not tell him, the reason why he was suffering. So to be honest, I don't know if we will ever know. And maybe someone would say that, when we get to the presence of God, we will know why we had suffered. But I believe when we get in the presence of God, we will be busy with joy, experiencing joy. So it's not going to be relevant anymore.
And
That's
that
a
was
good
really,
question.
If you allow me, while there are things that we will never know, why we were made to suffer. But there are three things we can know. We can know that suffering is inevitable, somebody is in control, and we can give it meaning. Don't let it go to waste. So these three things we can know. There is an essential point that I wanted to make. We have to be clear on this. God didn't create evil and suffering. We have to be clear on this. Okay? Suffering and pain, and I think it's a most difficult question that we could ask. Where did it come from? Okay? So some people may be wondering, okay, so why we have it? Why do we have it? But why do we have it? How did it start? Well, we know because God always existed, and we know that God is good, and that's the way they articulate the problem of suffering and pain. A good God, a powerful God. So God is good, we know that, and good is, whenever we think of good, we have to think of God, because good is grounded in God. So there's no evil and suffering in God, okay? So therefore, how do we get to the point where we have evil and we experience evil and pain? Well, it has to come from good that's grounded in God, that God exposed us to. So therefore, we have evil and pain because of the abusing of what is grounded in God, which is good. Don't be afraid to say it. So good is in God. How do we get evil and pain? Well, it came from good, and the sense that we abuse good, it becomes something else. It's like we make it faulty. We falsify it in a sense. So this is very important to understand. Now, why do we have it? And that's what gives sense to the question that we asked, and we answered it with free will, like free agents. Because we are free, God created us free, and we could choose. So we abuse, although God exposed us to good, that's in him, because we could choose. So what we did is that we abuse the good, and it becomes something else. Does that make sense? Yeah. That's how we got evil, and then as a consequence of that, we experience it on any form and shape because we disobeyed to the good that's grounded in God, that God exposed us to. It becomes something else, and we are experiencing it the way it is.
Now,
I know it's complicated, it's complex, but
this is the type of thing we're not supposed to do, because they're supposed to talk to us. But I can't help it. Just one thing. I don't know if you're gonna be here tonight. If you speak Creole, because I'm not gonna do my presentation in English, it's going to be in English, in Creole.
And no, we'll see what we can do as far as,
Okay, well, you'll probably have like a summary, but one of the key points I will present tonight is a basic observation you need to make when you read Genesis chapter 1. The Bible teaches that God created everything good, right? But it doesn't say everything was perfect. There's a difference between good and perfect. As a matter of fact, after God, created man, he added something to the creation from good to very good. So it was not perfect, it was good. That means somewhere the potential to evil was already there. The potential to evil. God did not create evil. God did not create suffering, but he created the best world with the potential of evil. We, men, actualize that potential of evil that was in the world. We actualize it by choosing our freedom over God. I will have time to talk about this deeper tonight, but I could not help it. Again, I would like for you to see it. The world was not perfect because there was the potential, and we'll see why that potential was there.
That was really good. I feel like, you guys should be here tonight. So because this is really interesting to me, I can't wait to hear the rest of this. Now, we want to give you guys a chance. We don't want to take this away from you, so we want to take more questions, and we'll try to be brief to get more of your questions. And if we have questions online, too.
I promise I'm not going to be long anymore.
The one thing you should know about this panel, we are very passionate about the Word of God and the subject, so it's just hard to restrain ourselves. But go ahead.
All right. Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate that. Also, you guys just mentioned that God did not create suffering, and yet we know that he brings good out of suffering. My question will be, does that mean suffering is necessary for goodness, or could an all-powerful God, right, achieve the same good without suffering?
I love this. This is the number one question. This is really, I leave it too.
Oh, I go for it. I think the answer is no. That was God's desire, that he was going to actualize this type of world, and the beauty of it is that God knew that suffering would result. Even though that wasn't part of the decree, because God's decree concerns the creation, the redemption, and the renewal of all things, not the fall. However, our God is not distant from suffering. He came into this world, and he suffered. And because of that, he's not removed from it, and that's why God can be such a good priest, because he has experienced everything that we are now experiencing. And these are not things that actually took God by surprise. He knew about these things even before the decree to create. So that's the beauty of it. God knew that suffering would result, and not just for ourselves, but he knew that he was going to suffer. He was going to taste it as well. And this is the path that he has chosen in his wisdom, in his justice. And I think our concern should not be, to challenge God's wisdom for bringing about this world. That's what he has orchestrated. He has his reason for it. We may not fully know the reasons because we know partly. There's going to be a time where we will have a glimpse of what God had in mind when he was designing such a world. But that's the world that he has decided to create, and he knew suffering would result. And he said, you know what? I will suffer with you. I will endure the same way that you are enduring now. And you know why I'm doing this? Because I'm creating a race of victors. Because I want people to reign with me. And you need to learn how to reign with God. And this world is that theater where you learn that. This is the theater where you develop spiritual muscles so that you can reign with God. Because God is not going to reign with cowards. He's going to reign with victors. And that's what God is raising now. He's raising an army of victors to reign in the afterworld.
We are rehearsing.
Yep, that's what we're doing now.
Wow.
And I think
just getting ready for glory.
And Dallas Willard beautifully say that we are in training for reigning. We are in training for reigning. And I love this question. I'll just comment on it briefly. It came to my mind this way. The way in is the way out. We actualize the suffering. In order to get it out of our system, we need to go through it again. So it's kind of like, you go through that door to leave the building. If you want to come back in the building, you need to go through the same door. So suffering, we introduce it. We enter into it now. We don't want it anymore. If we don't want it, we have to go through it again. So that's the new life experience. But next one. Next question. Do we have any questions online?
She has another one.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So since we have to go through suffering, how can we as Christian do not use suffering as like a spiritual guilt?
It's like a spiritual guilt. Guilt. Like it's like interesting. Yeah. Like is it something I did, or is it God? Putting that on me without cause, or that's. I love that question.
Thank you for the questions. I think there's something else also we have to keep in mind. And in the Bible, Peter in his epistle said it. Sometimes we suffer, it's because we do wrong. We cannot forget that too, because I don't want us to be in this frame of mind. It's like, it is necessary, it has to happen, just make it meaningful. The same Bible said also that certain things is because of us. And the case of Job, Job didn't do anything wrong. As a matter of fact, the Bible described Job as someone who is very careful, right? And mindful. Do you remember what he did for his family, children? He said, probably, maybe, they might do something where, because they were, and they were partying. Let me present the sacrifice. So if they did something, you see, this somebody who's very careful and mindful about his relationship with God. But you see what happened. Okay, this is one thing. This you cannot put it on Job, and it's clear. But the Bible said also some people are suffering because of the sins. This is very important. Because I don't want us to lose that side also, by being so philosophical that we forget that we have, in our free will, we have our responsibility in doing things. Free will means that too. Like, I have to choose, like, in your relationship with your parents, they said, I don't want that young boy for you. She said, no, Mama, I want him, I love him. And, you even leave the house. And something happened to you, it's not because of suffering or it's necessary to suffer. It happens to you because you didn't listen to your parents. Do you understand? Certain times in life you don't need to be like have a guilt in you because you did something, but sometimes you know exactly what you did that put you in that situation. You got to make sure you don't put yourself in that situation too. Thank you.
That's a very good point, if I may, and I like that, Ole, you took the point to underline it. In Philippians 2, verse 12, Paul says, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. And for me, this takes a volume to the way we're supposed to be on our guard, not to expose ourselves to sins, because there are consequences. And I, again, like it, we're not talking about suffering like, it's inevitable, so it's going to happen, and then we can do whatever we want. Some sufferings come just because of bad choices. We know them as bad, we still do them. So be ready when this happens to face the consequence. And when Paul says, work out your salvation with fear and trembling, that's what it means. Don't be so much as, okay, you can do whatever you want, because when you suffer, the problem will be you will face this guilt because you actually did something wrong. The reason Job did not have any guilt It's because Job did not do anything wrong. He knew that he did not do anything wrong. When his friends was trying to convince him, hey, this is happening to you because of something you may have done, Job was like, no one will have me believe that, because I know how I serve my Lord, my God. So he was in his conscience very, there was peace. You will lose that if you keep sinning and then you face the consequence of your sin. When the consequence comes, you will have the guilt because you didn't work out your salvation with fear and trembling.
Good point. I think that's what we call setting the record straight, for you not to be confused. When we say suffering is inevitable, we don't have to look at it as something that's direct to us. It could mean something that's happening in my environment, in my family, that makes me suffer. It could mean emotional suffering, So it's not necessarily, it doesn't necessarily mean that I have to do something to suffer. I can suffer for what happened to someone that I know. The same way I'm suffering for Haiti. I'm not even in Haiti. I've been out of Haiti for 16 years. But I suffer every day for what's happening. And I'm not causing it. Does that make sense? So now, I know sometimes it's because you do things and they explain Job and so on and so forth. It was, we were talking about suffering like in a broad manner. Now, the point I wanted to make is how to suffer and not feeling like emotionally guilty. I think we have, not emotionally, you didn't say that word, that's the word I want to use. Spiritually guilty. We have to not be emotional about it. Don't start with emotions. Start with reason, with logic. Why am I going through this? You can ask questions. And then when you ask questions, it's calling for something. What is it? Answers. That's why and then that's when you keep, you try to track, okay, what happened? What happened to me, okay? I lose the job. I'm not gonna be able to pay my bills. What happened? Did I do something that was wrong? So it will make my family go through some tough times. What happened? Don't be emotional about it. Oh no, no. Write on paper. You may even write on paper what happened. So I think it's very important to ask questions. That's when logic will come into play. When you ask questions, what happened, why it happened, it will preserve you from being spiritually guilty, because sometimes it's not the case. But sometimes, most of the time, it is. And my last point is, don't be just emotionally guilty. When you realize that you did something wrong, get it resolved with God, because He can get things fixed.
Yes.
You confess what you did wrong, and then get back fully in peace with your Lord. Don't just be, how you call it, what happened to Judah. It's not, he was, there was a name for it. Like, I feel like, okay, yeah, that's not good. I feel the pain, but I feel the pain to lead me to God to ask for forgiveness. So I can get joy. Remorse. Not just, be consumed by remorse. No. God can get things fixed. Go to Him and get it fixed.
Yeah. And which is really interesting, and I think this is coming from a place too for us as young people. You can live with a burden of guilt over so many things. And I would advise this simple practice: whenever you fall, go straight to your master. Like, don't run away from, whatever it may be, because on a daily you will make mistake, you will do something. A good practice at the end of your day, it can take like 30 seconds. You can lay on your bed, you review your day with God, and you will be able to see what went wrong. Then you confess it and you commit it to Him. Don't take it with you, because that will create a guilt. Regardless of what you did, review it. The problem is, don't run away from it. Yes, God, I did this, I did that. But now, once you realize, okay, what you did, you can repent from it with the love of the Father. He's not trying to kill you. I think there's a gospel that is being preached where God is after you. He's just waiting for you to do something and just, that's not the God we serve. He keep you accountable because he loves you. He will not. One time I remember I was praying and this idea comes to my mind. God is like, I love you so much to spare you from your consequences. I love you so much to spare you from them, because if I spare you from them, you won't learn and you won't grow, and that's not loving. So confess at once, repent, and get back on track. So yeah, I think let's take maybe one or two more questions.
Oh, okay.
Oh, there's a question.
Okay, we'll think.
Yeah, my name is John Esdras. I want to thank you for the job that you are doing here. Thank you so much because you give yourself for the people of God. You all know what Asian people are experiencing right now, not only in Haiti, but a little bit around the world, specifically in Dominican Republic, in the United States. My question for you, how do you view the suffering of the Haitian people in light of the Bible? Is it a curse, a lack of knowledge, or a lack of leadership? Thank you.
I think you have a book on that, so the question. Yeah, go ahead.
That's Dr. Abel specifically question, but if I can start it off, and I like the answer is in the question, the last option, because I was thinking about when you were saying it. I think it's lack of leadership. Mostly what we are going through as a people, as a nation, is due to the people who are in power. When I say power, not necessarily political power, like the elite, the intellectual elite that we have, the economic elite, and the political elite. There is no vision for Haiti. I don't know what will happen in 10 years for Haiti, although we have 9 presidents. That doesn't make sense to me. We have a prime minister. We have ministers. How can you imagine? This morning, Dr. Jules and I were talking about that. So we have some ministers that cannot even operate in the country, but they still exist. They still getting paid. They still enjoying all the privileges. But we have, what do we need a minister of tourism for in Haiti now? What goal does it serve? So yeah, I would say this way, and I let it to the expert. I think it's mostly leadership in my understanding, and we need to stop that. I think we are too, what's the word? It's not novice. It's when it's like you don't pay attention to things. My wife usually calls me that way. Reckless, yeah. There was a way. We just let things go. It's like a type of fatalism. It's not good. We got to stand up and say, we need this to change. Because our ancestors were not like that. They had a vision for the country, and then now when we are looking for the past 30 years, we don't understand what's going on in our country.
Can I say a few words? I think it's culture. Culture has something to do with it. Why? Why am I saying that? Because our culture is fundamentally rooted in animism. What do I mean by animism? Animism is the worldview where you believe that anything that happens to you has to be the direct consequences of the action of the God or the gods. The action of God or the gods. It's like there's nothing that you can do. There's no agency. There's no personal responsibility. If something good's gonna happen, it's gonna be because of God wills it. If something bad happens, the gods have done it. The devil did it. There's no ownership. But in reality, God has created a causal universe by which actions have consequences. He has created a universe with cause and effect. So therefore, if we're not taking the right decisions, we're not getting the right results. That's how it works. That's how it works in your family. That's how it works in a corporation. That's how it works in a nation. You know? So we need to understand that we are in charge. And because we are in charge, as Jean was saying, we need to have a vision for the country and pay the price. It's like John Maxwell said, you know, whenever you saw something good happen, it's because somebody set the goal and paid the price. That's how things work. So if we're setting a goal, we say this is the type of Haiti that we want to see, you know, 20 years from now, and this is the price that needs to be paid for it. Things are gonna move. We're gonna move the needle. But if we're saying that, you know, we're gonna pray Haiti's salvation, or we're gonna ask the gods to come and fix us, it's not gonna happen, because that's not the type of universe that God has created.
I don't want to get too deep into it because I want, you know, other questions to be asked. You see, I'm very furious about this idea of a curse or curse, that Haiti would be under a curse. And I'm furious because this is something that comes from within the church. A lot of people, you know, spreading things like this and create even more. When the church, we are the light. And this is the type of approach we have about what's going on to our country. You know that we are deep into the trouble. The key word, I'm going to talk about ethics of responsibility. Dr. Jules just mentioned that. Responsibility. This is the reason why we are where we are, because we've been having leaders that are not responsible. And I will leave it at that.
And that was really good. I will close with that. The word responsibility means responsibility. So we have the ability to respond. We just don't use the ability. That's
Give me 10 seconds. I think to not complete, but you know, to add what my friends just said, I think I would not say animate. I'm sorry, because I think Abel got it right. You know, and I think the world is spiritual. I'm sorry to say it like that, because even here in America, you will see people who in politics, the Republican, they will say they're Christian, and God give them this country. Regardless, that does not mean they don't have responsibility. You can still have spiritual beliefs while you're doing what you have to do. Do you understand? And when you take the Muslim countries, or they call the Muslim country, they believe that if they have a death, it's because Allah do. Do you understand? You can still have that thinking or belief like that while you're doing what you're supposed to do. And most of the time, to be frank with you, you know, the preaching of the church is, I'm saying it's frame the way we think stuff. I understand also the fact that we are a nation of believers, either in God or in the law. We always have to look for a spiritual stuff. Yeah. But, you know, if you only say animist, what about the church? You know, this is why I had a problem a little bit with the animism thing, because if it's that, what, you would put the church in the animism thing? If it's that in America, I've heard American preachers, after the earthquake, talking about Haiti, they said it's because of the devil. I mean, they gave it a spiritual root.
And we endorse that aspect.
This is not the aspect. What I meant to say is that I have a problem with the term animism. Because if it's like that, no, it doesn't make, you don't do justice to other group of religious people who are Christian, who think the same thing. That was my concern a little bit.
Yeah, and then whenever we get a chance, we'll dive into it. Now we'll take.
Let me tell you what's going to happen, guys. We're gonna be eating together, and we're gonna have a major argument about this. So this is cool.
If you allow me, now he asked for 10 seconds. He took 2 minutes. I asked for 30. Okay, 30 seconds. The way I understood the animism, as Dr. Jules mentioned, is why do we stay still while they are doing all that to us? I think it's attached to something that's deeper, and that's where I see animism, the cultural thing. Because the people let that happen. What's going on? Why do we let that happen to us? I think there is something there.
So maybe next year's conference. Okay. So, and then we will take one more question, and then and by the way, again, I will say this: we'll be hanging out. If you guys have questions, you can ask either one of us.
My question is, I say, do you believe humanity from suffering will wake up, or will Christ have to come back, or will there be another Christ for us to wake up and realize why we suffered, or this is what we're supposed to do?
You guys get it? So,
Could you ask the question again?
Is that, the main question is, do you believe humanity will be able to wake up by themselves from the other suffering we go through, or will there have to be, Christ have to come back? Will there have to be another Christ?
Well,
Take all that.
personally, I don't I have hope for humanity because the church is still here. We are the light, the soul of the world. And, you know, because the church is here on earth, everything is possible. It's not to say that everybody will be saved and then there will be no suffering on earth. We know that's not true. The new earth will come and then suffering will stop. But because of the church, there's still a time of reckoning, a time of spiritual, how we call that, réveil? Revival. I think this is still possible. We've known a few of those through history, and I think revival is still possible.
Yeah. Let me just say one thing. God knew that suffering would come. However, he gave us a cultural mandate when he said to have dominion. So which means we have to push back suffering as much as possible. And that's why we do science. You know, that's why we produce medicine to help people cope with suffering. That's why we have good legislation, good laws in place. That's why we have public policies. God wants us to do these things, to push back the effects of suffering and evil into the world. And that's what we have. That's what we call the biblical mandate. So God did not call us to sit back and look at the suffering and not doing anything about it. We should intervene. We should have dominion. God wants us to do that. And as that's what we're supposed to be doing as a church.
yeah, and to I'll just add this.
Right.
That's the call for us as young people to go into the different arena of life and influence the culture for God. So it's like and that actually is a very important conversation because in the church, especially as Haitian, we believe in the type of gospel, I'm waiting to go to heaven. You know, and it doesn't matter what happened here. So I'm just waiting because, one day I will fly away. Which is great, but while you will fly away, you're still walking. So it's very important that we keep that mindset. Yeah.
So in other words, are we saying, although we say suffering is inevitable, that doesn't mean all sufferings are inevitable. Yeah. There are certain types or forms or shapes of sufferings that we can avoid. That's what I understand you said, correct? Perfect.
En 2010, un tremblement de terre qui...
In 2010, yeah, there was an earthquake.
Oh, okay, good. Parce que là, sont l'autre bagaille. En 2010, un tremblement de terre qui passe en Haïti, qui fait plus de 250 000 moun mourir. Dans la même période, là, en février, Haïti en passé en janvier, en février, dans la même année, il y a un qui passait au Chili, avec une magnitude qui est beaucoup plus grande que ça qui est arrivé à Haïti. Il fait beaucoup moins de dégâts. Et c'est quelques dizaines de monde seulement qui mourent comparé à 250 000 monde et plus qui mourent en Haïti. To piggyback on what my brother was saying, brother Jean-Marie, suffering is inevitable, but some of it is consequence of our non-taking responsibility.
Our lack of responsibility.
Our lack of responsibility. Si dirigeant en Haïti t'es préparé, dégâts, tremblement de terre l'ont fait en Haïti, pas t'a fait. T'as toujours un tremblement de terre, mais pas dans proportion ça.
Correct.
And to last word, c'est Martin Luther qui disait, l'impossible pour Jésus de venir demain, mais aujourd'hui, si je suis capable, je plante un pied bois.
Yeah, it's possible for Jesus to come back tomorrow, but if I can, I should plant a tree today.
So basically, I think that's what it is.
That was really beautiful. Can you guys put your hands together for this? Again, my joy as the youngest among you guys is just to sit and watch the conversation. And like Dr. Abel said, tonight we're not going to sleep. So it's just the conversation will keep going. The reason why I even mentioned that, take advantage of this moment. After we're done, I know it's late, get to know them. And they're very friendly. You can talk to them. They can mentor you. You can, as you know, they allow you, you can reach out to them on whatever platform. They can give you the information. Do that. Don't waste that opportunity, because my great concern and motivation is for the Haitian American church, especially young people, to be exposed to resources like that. So you have them in front of you. It's not always the bon Dieu pral passe avant. You know, we have people that can actually show you the way, the biblical way. And don't fall for the false gospel. The truth is here. And you can get to know people that will present it to you. So please, I beg you, get to know them, connect with them as we're about to close. We will be closing in prayer as we started, and I will invite you to stand up. And what I'm hearing from this conversation as the closing note is responsibility. Fulfill your responsibility towards God, towards yourself, and towards others. And the part that you cannot fulfill, the consequences that comes with that, you leave it to God. So there is a part that is yours to fulfill, and there is a part you cannot do anything about, but make sure the part that you can, you actually do that. So would you please bow your head down, and I will have Pastor Jean-Marie to pray over us. Pray that, say, God, show me where I'm not fulfilling my responsibility. Show me my shortcoming. David prayed this prayer in Psalm 18. He said, may I not be guilty of sin, of presumptuous sin. That means sin that I'm presuming, I'm assuming I'm doing well, but I'm not. So ask God to reveal to you, where am I falling short?